Hey, you amazing Met fans. Welcome back to Optimistic Met Fan. I'm your host, Frank Osberger. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about everything Mets as far as opening day and everything Pete Alonso, Kodai Senga, the bullpen. We're going to dive into some of the prospects as well. We're going to talk about maybe could we be seeing a sophomore jinx with Mark Vientos. But first, please like and subscribe to the podcast. I want to thank everybody who has already subscribed and everybody who continues to subscribe. You could also follow along with the podcast on TikTok and Instagram. You could also watch me on YouTube as well as Spotify. So let's begin with talking about Pete Alonso. So Pete Alonso signed a one-year contract with the New York Mets. And he's starting off pretty hot. Looks like Pete's back. Has 3 home runs, 15 RBIs, and is batting a little bit over 300 to start the season. And looks like Pete's back. Looks like Pete's confident. Looks like he has his mojo back. Last year he had a down season, according to MLB and according to the fan base. Well, not the entire fan base, but some of the Pete haters. Uh, having 34 home runs and 88 RBIs last season, it was a down season for Pete, but I think we could all agree that, anybody would love to have 34 home runs and 88 RBIs. As far as this year, Pete's come on strong, leading the Met offense with 3 home runs and 15 RBIs, like I just said. And looks like he's pretty confident in that 3 hole, batting behind Juan Soto. Every single at bat looks like he's focused, looks like he's calm and collected, looks like he is back to being the polar bear. So that is good news for the Citi Field faithful. Also, I want to just mention that Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor at the top of the lineup have been getting on base a lot the first 2 weeks of the season, and that's kind of helped Pete get these RBI opportunities, and he's been cashing in. And a lot of people thought maybe he would still bat in the 4th hole. I kind of like him in the 3 hole. I don't know. I mean, to start the season, I was a little bit skeptical because I was like, you know what? If Pete bats like he did last season, it could be an issue. But so far, he looks like he's taking advantage of those opportunities and he's riding with it. So, very happy to see that. I also feel like Pete feels like he's home and feels like he's comfortable. And anytime a baseball player is comfortable in the batter's box, comfortable in his own skin, it kind of helps him along the way. And I think that Pete was missing that last year. I feel like Pete wasn't feeling the love. He did get a standing ovation on opening day, and he did. When I went Sunday with my family, he did get a pretty good ovation too, every single at bat, and that was nice to see. Also, I'd like to just congratulate Vladimir Guerrero, another first baseman, on his contract that he recently signed. 14 years, $500 million. Holy moly, that's a lot of money. You know what? If Pete keeps playing the way he's playing, he's going to see some money. So, Uncle Steve, please pay the man. Please keep him in the orange and blue. I think every Met fan would agree we love seeing him in the orange and blue. And, Pete belongs in New York Met. Like I said, he feels comfortable, feels good. He seems to be zoned in. We need Pete if we're going to go where we want to go. And I think every Met fan would agree that we love seeing him happy. We love seeing the polar bear be the polar bear. And enough already. Let's just give this guy a long-term contract. And let's have Pete break a whole ton of Met records. Along the way this week, though, I will say that the heroics really haven't just been Pete Alonso. It's been this bullpen, especially Hiskar Brasban and Max Kranick. Max Kranick pitched today and actually did pretty well as well, as I'm recording this on Wednesday. He has pitched to about 8 or almost 9 innings, and he hasn't given up a run. Max Kranick has been a stud in this bullpen, and Hiskar Brasban has been the only, well, other than Diaz today, he's been the only guy who's given up a run in this bullpen. This bullpen has been fantastic, and has been the MVP of the early goings of the season. But what I think every Met fan would agree on is that the starting rotation needs to get some innings in because this is getting crazy. Only going about 5 innings a start is not going to do this bullpen any favors. This bullpen is not built for that. I don't think any bullpen really is. Uh, but, we'll see. Early on, it looks like we're just kind of getting through the motions. Looks like we're just throwing guys out there and seeing what sticks. Right now, the bullpen is getting the job done, but we really need some of these starters to go more than 5 innings. I think that's been the Achilles heel of this team so far. The one negative I would have to say from the pitching staff has been the starting rotation hasn't really gone deep into games. Uh, a few starters have gone into the 6th inning. I think Peterson is the only one who's actually gone 6 innings, and that's not really good. But, today looks like McGill kind of hit a wall with his pitches. Uh, didn't really get the ball over the zone, was walking a lot of guys, was getting deep into counts, was 50 pitches in his start today into the 2nd inning. That's not good. You can't go 50 pitches in 2 innings. That's just going to, derail your start. He only was able to go 4 innings today, got into the 5th inning, and then Max Kranick had to bail him out. Like I said, that's not really a good thing. So, that's the only thing with this pitching staff I'm kind of worried about at this point is the longevity of innings. You need to get some innings out of these starters. Right now, we don't have Sean Manaea. We don't have Frankie Montas. Right now, we're looking for guys to have a really good start and kind of, we're kind of like praying that they go 6 innings, and that's not really a good look. Other than that, the pitching staff's been really good. I'm really proud of the pitching staff. They still have the league-leading ERA in baseball. That's probably the only thing that's been good about this pitching staff is that they have the leading ERA. The bullpen, like I said, has been bailing them out. And the starting pitching really needs to step up their game. I mean, let's see what Griffin Canning can do Friday against I guess we can call them the Sacramento A's. I don't really know what you call them right now. Baseball is just calling them the Athletics. They're playing out Sacramento, so the Mets will be going there on Friday night. Griffin Canning, hopefully he can go 6 innings because this is killing me. Seeing the Mets go every single game, 4 or 5 innings, it's like, yeah, they're not giving up any runs, but you're not helping the bullpen either. And eventually the bullpen's going to hit a wall. So let's not have that happen. What else should we talk about? Senga is going to be going Sunday against a familiar face, and that's a Mr. Luis Severino. So Sunday should be pretty interesting. We'll see Severino in an A's uniform. Still kind of feel funny calling him an Oakland A, but I said Oakland. He's an Athletic. Still can't get over not calling the Athletics the Oakland Athletics. I think that's just a shame that they had to leave Oakland. But again, we'll get that on pace. The A's. I don't even. It's kind of silly. Even Gary Cohen and Keith were kind of making fun of it during one of the games, saying that what do you call them? But eventually they'll be in Vegas, so that'll be pretty cool. But yeah, speaking of Senga, we really need him to step up as the ace. I think that's the one thing that we're missing on this team is an actual ace. And yeah, we're proving that you don't need one during the regular season, but at the same time, you see all these other teams with an ace starter going 7, 8 innings. 1 or 2 runs, sometimes no runs, a whole bunch of strikeouts. And you're like, man, it really would be great if the Mets could get one of these guys. I actually think the Mets are probably going to trade for one, but I don't want to jinx it. I really hope they trade for Sandy Alcantara. But, right now, Senga needs to be the ace. He's the guy with the best stuff, I think, in the rotation. I think every Met fan could agree that he probably has the best stuff. But even, we're kind of, babying him along, kind of, easing him along. He's gone 5 innings each start. He has looked really good. But again, these pitching coaches and, the staffs, they don't really want to push these guys. So, they probably go 80, 90 pitches a game. And these hitters in baseball, they could work your counts and they can get your pitching count up. And you can only go 4 or 5 innings. So I really want to see, Senga take that first step. and Peterson and McGill. All these guys just try to go deep into games. I think that's what's been hurting these teams, you know, is, we're not really getting deep into games with the pitching staff. I think that would go, you know, a mile long for this team if they can just figure out a way to put this all together. I think we have the ingredients to be one of the best pitching staffs. I just don't see it yet. I see the ingredients for it. I see the potential, but I just don't. You're not seeing it on screen. When you look at the box score, you go, oh, Senga when he gave up one run, McGill, his ERA is under a run. Peterson the same thing, but at the same time, you then look at the box score and you see, oh, they only went 4 2/3, 5 1/3. That's not good. Eventually it's going to catch up to us. So that's really the one thing that I'm worried about as a Met fan is, this pitching staff's going to hit a wall, especially because the offense really hasn't taken off yet. And, Pete's really been the only constant in this lineup that's really bailed out the pitching staff. And, right now, that's getting it done. But, Lindor and Soto and Pete, they can keep getting on base and scoring runs. But if the pitching staff doesn't go deep into games, eventually this bullpen could get exposed. And that's what, I think that's what we're all worried about. So, Friday, Sunday, I'm hoping that Senga could start us off on the right foot as far as establishing himself as an ace. As far as, the rest of the pitching staff, just keep doing what you're doing. Like I said, Friday, it's going to be Griffin Canning. And then we'll see where they go from there. But as far as going deep into games, it really needs to start this weekend because, we're going to a stretch where we're going to have, I believe it's 13 games in a row without a day off. So, we may need a sixth starter, and who's that going to be? Could it be one of these guys in the bullpen? Could it be a Max Kranick who kind of does a bullpen game where you have him go a couple of innings and then you kind of piece it together with the bullpen? If that's the case, we definitely need some of these starters to step up and perform at a higher level and give us innings. As good as we've been, and the Mets are 8-4. We could easily start losing some games and losing some series, and before you know, we're a 500 below 500 ball club because we're just not hitting enough and scoring enough runs for this pitching staff, which really needs to step up their game as far as innings pitched. And speaking of the offense, besides the three guys that I've mentioned, Lindor, Soto, and Alonso, Vientos is kind of the one guy that is kind of missing in all of this because he's not been doing good. And I know it's early. I know we always got on Lindor for having slow starts. He's the one guy in the middle of this lineup that I'm kind of like giving the benefit of the doubt to. I think that he'll eventually come around. But again, we need to score more runs. We need to manufacture more runs. Pete's been carrying this team. Juan Soto's getting his hits. Lindor's getting his hits. Nemo's been getting hits. But the middle to back of his lineup has been non-existent. And, I don't want to be the negative Nancy with this, but I really hope that Vientos ain't having a sophomore jinx because, this guy was the guy that I was counting on to be the guy that was going to benefit from all these guys on base besides Pete. And right now, Vientos is just not looking like he's comfortable at the plate. Looks like he's pressing a little bit. I don't know why. Maybe it's teams have figured him out. Let's hope that that's not the case because I really think that Vientos will end up having a good year. But at the same time, you got to worry about that a little bit as far as, this is his second year in the league. Guys have seen him already. Maybe they're trying to, maybe they figured him out a little bit. I'm hoping that, this is just the beginning of the year and, hard luck. He has had some tough luck with some of his outs. I'm not going to say that he has a swing a good bat. He's had good at bats. It's just he's not getting hits. And, then he's carrying it out into the field and, playing some bad defense along the way. I know that we're not paying Vientos to field, we're paying him to hit. But at the same time, it's, you can't leave men on base like he's been leaving them on base. It's just been kind of like really, really frustrating to see Vientos not get hits the way he dominated last season, the way he dominated in the postseason. This is a guy that we're counting on to be, you know, the third or fourth best hitter on this team. And right now he's looking like he's struggling and he's not figuring it out at all. And it's really, alarming. But, I'm hoping I have confidence in Vientos. I do not, on the other hand, have confidence in second base. And let me explain that. Uh, I'm an advocate for Brett Beatty. Uh, my inner circle, we've all argued that, either Brett Beatty's going to be good or bad. I think Brett Beatty's going to be good. I defended him through last season when he lost his job to Mark Vientos at third base. Uh, you know, this is a guy that I thought was going to turn the corner this year. I thought that when we got the news that Jeff McNeil had hurt his oblique, that this was Brett Beatty's time to shine. He's done nothing but fail. And I say that and I laugh because I'm starting to think that I was wrong. And, I know I've had these debates with my friends before and even some family members. I know my brother-in-law was not a big Brett Beatty guy. Shout out to John. I love you, buddy. But I was a big Brett Beatty fan, and now I'm starting to believe that I was wrong and everybody else was right. So, I just have to say that maybe you guys were right. He's looked kind of brutal. I'm not going to, there's no way to sugarcoat that. His at-bats today, in today's game, earlier this afternoon, were not good. They were not competitive. He looks overwhelmed. He looks like he's not the same guy that was in spring training. I don't know what it is about this guy when he goes into spring, through the spring and bats over 300, but when he gets to the major league level, he can't hit. I do not understand what's going on with Brett Beatty. But then again, I'm not so high on Acuna either. And Luis Angel Acuna, the only upside with him is his defense. And really, I mean, if we're going to have a young guy that's just going to play defense, then we might as well get somebody else to man the ship with McNeil and send both Beatty and Acuna back down to AAA. I mean, I know that's not a fan favorite thing. I know a lot of guys have fallen in love with Acuna. I'm still kind of 50-50 on Acuna, to be honest with you. And the reason why is because there was this article that Francisco Lindor did right before the season started. And he was hyping up, a bunch of the players and said, thing with Acuna was that they asked him, they said, hey, he's been kind of like, lackadaisical and not really into it. What's up with Acuna? And Lindor kind of nicely said, and, this is another reason why I think Francisco Lindor should be captain, because he kind of nicely put it that Acuna was kind of lazy during spring training, like he didn't get into it. And I have an issue with that because you're battling for a spot on the team, and you and Beatty are battling for second base. And Beatty, the reason why I kept backing Beatty and not Acuna was because at least Beatty was acting like he gave a what. And Acuna thinks that he was just going to be guaranteed a spot on this team. And honestly, I don't think either one of them is guaranteed a spot on this team right now, to be honest with you. And that's a problem because, until McNeil is back, we need these guys to step up. And one of them is going to probably stay as a backup. But I don't think either of them really deserve a spot right now. And, that bothers me to say that because I like both of these guys. But at the same time, Beatty just looks lost at the plate. He made a horrible throw at second base today that cost the Mets 2 runs and really took them out of the game because they weren't hitting. And then you got Acuna, who really only has good at bats late in the game or when, he thinks the spotlight's on him. And, as far as Acuna goes, like, you're not your brother. You're not Ronald Acuna from the Atlanta Braves. You're not even half of what your brother is. So, we really need Jeff McNeil to come back. Once Jeff comes back, we'll have a stable guy at second base. I'm big on Jeff McNeil. I always have. I like guys that grind out at bats. and, the big contact guys, I think he'd fit this lineup a little bit better than the guys that we have. Mainly because I feel like Jeff will just put the ball in play and move that lineup along, and we'll deepen this lineup. He is scheduled to start a rehab assignment soon, so I think that Brett Beatty and Acuna only have like maybe a week left, and then after that, I think Jeff will be back on the Mets. So I'm thinking probably you can optimistically say probably by next week, the next homestand, maybe we'll see Jeff McNeil back at second base for the New York Mets. And actually, as of today, Francisco Alvarez, the catcher, is also rehabbing, so he should be back soon as well. So that'd be great. Little disappointed about Aiden Sanger because I think he'd be a good backup, but the backup's going to be Luis Torrens, so but Hayden Sanger should be back. He's a good guy to have down at AAA just in case one of these guys get hurt again. But yeah, if we can get Alvarez and McNeil back, I think that'd do wonders for the bottom of this lineup, which was another concern I had. Bottom of the lineup just hasn't really gotten it done, and even center field for that matter with Tyrone Taylor and Jose Siri. The two of them have not combined for a lot of offense. They've really just been defensive guys in center field. So I think center field and second really need to step it up in the coming weeks, and I hope with Jeff McNeil coming back and Alvarez coming back, at least some of the bottom of the lineup will get a little bit stronger. But as far as center field, until one of these prospects come up, I think we're kind of stuck with what we have with Jose Siri and Tyrone Taylor. I know a lot of Met fans like Tyrone Taylor. I like him too, but as a backup, I don't want him starting every other day. I'd rather see Jose Siri start just because of his speed. And if he can get on base, he can be a real threat on the bases. I don't really get that with Tyrone Taylor. So, maybe that's just me. But, as of now, not really much to complain about though. We're 8-4. We're in first place, depending on the game tonight with Atlanta and Philly. As I do this pod, we'll see what happens with that. But worst case scenario, we're in first place still, 8-4. Can't really complain. As far as what I want to see from some of these guys this weekend, I'd like to see them score a little bit more runs early. I think that's been an issue again. I didn't think that would be an issue this year, but they've had spurts where they've gotten up early, but I'd really like them to be more consistent with that. And that's been kind of a concern going into the season is this top three going to really be something that could sustain the long haul for the season, get teams down early, really pounce on them. We only really got leads a couple of games this season out of the first 12. Usually we're playing from behind, and that's kind of odd with the team that we have. But, we've grinded out games. Pitching's kind of stepped it up. So that's good, because, the pitching was supposed to be a weakness. As far as some of the prospects, I wanted to do a prospects watch on the show. Brandon Sproat in 2 starts. He's the number 1 prospect. He's one of the pitchers that the Mets are looking to bring up this season. In his first start, he really didn't look that sharp. 2 innings with 4 runs, 3 strikeouts, 3 walks, and 3 hits. The second start, he was extremely sharp. He went 4 innings, gave up 1 run, 2 strikeouts, and 2 walks, only 1 hit. So, hopefully if Brandon Sproat could get it together, we should be seeing him in the coming months. I'd love to see him pitch at Citi Field. I think the crowd would really go for him. He kind of reminds me of Matt Harvey a little bit, for those Met fans who remember, Batman, Matt Harvey. That guy was a bulldog. It's kind of like how Brandon Sproat kind of looks on the mound. I saw him a couple times in spring training. I really like him. Another guy to look for is Blade Tidwell. I love that guy's name, Blade Tidwell. 2 starts so far. His first start was really good. Had 5 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 run on 1 hit. It was a home run. Second start, 3 innings, 4 runs, 4 strikeouts. So kind of like the opposite of what Sproat did. These 2 guys could really be good insurance policies for the New York Mets as the season goes. Because David Stearns likes to, use every single avenue that he could. And really, if one of these guys could step up, it could really go a long way for this pitching staff, especially since they want to go to a six-man rotation. But, we'll see. I don't want to rush any of these guys, but at the same time, it'd be really exciting to see some of these young guys come up. And another guy that has been turning heads in the Mets farm system, a pitcher in Double-A. Keep an eye on Nolan McLean. His first start for the Binghamton Mets, he had 4 innings, 3 hits, no runs, no walks, and 8 strikeouts. So, we'll see how the pitching staff turns out in the minor leagues. But, these are the guys that the Mets have been developing for a year or two now. Looks like all of them are starting to step it up. That's really nice to see. The other prospects on the Mets, some of the position players I wanted to hit up today, they really haven't played enough for me to talk about them. They haven't had a lot of at bats yet. As the year goes on, I'm going to keep you guys posted on some of these prospects. One prospect that I was really excited about, Ronnie Mauricio, he came up in 2023. He's just getting back into baseball shape, coming back from an ACL injury, but he hasn't really played yet. I'm really excited to see what he can do. I'm hoping he can be one of those guys like Mark Vientos that can just come up and be one of those electrifying stars that the Mets have in their farm system. Other than that, the Met farm system has a lot of guys in A-ball and Double-A that are coming up. You guys have heard of them, Drew Gilbert, Jed Williams. But like I said, they haven't had a lot of at-bats for me to mention anything yet. Nothing outstanding. Other than that, I think that's it for today's show. I'll be back on next week. I'm going to unveil some Mount Rushmore Mets. That was a thing I thought would be kind of cool. Trying to touch base on top 4 of every position on the Mets. And then I was going to do an all-time Mount Rushmore. So throughout the episodes, I was going to maybe unveil some of those. I'll probably hit 2 of those up next week. But until then, stay amazing. And let's go Mets. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks.